So it's working.
It's working out, yeah. This is weird. I don't know if it's on our page though. That's like the weird part, but we'll see. It doesn't matter. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. And 1, 2. It's not showing up on mine yet. All right. And 1, 2, 3. And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the 1, 2, 3. And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. PORSBR is my Twitter handle, and RHOLM22 is Ryan. We're live on YouTube today. Just trying to get a show out for you guys because I want to make sure that you guys get our I don't want like my Super Bowl pick not to go through afterwards. I want to make sure it goes through now. So it's legitimate. Also, talking about a little bit of the Chiefs and Lions last night, divisional picks, and then obviously the Raiders here on the Put On Raiders podcast because that's what we do here. Ryan, how you doing today?
Doing good. It's good. It's good to be on the day after the Chiefs lose their opener.
I know. And then it's everybody's coming after me because I said the Raiders needed a transformational quarterback, and they said, "Oh, Chiefs lost." I'm like, well, somehow, some way, I think we'll hear from the Chiefs.
They didn't lose because of the quarterback.
They did not lose because of the quarterback. Let's just roll into that real quick. Chiefs lose at home to the Lions here. Shout out to One Pride. The Lions fans are going crazy. I don't want, and you made a good point of this too. I don't want to hear about all the fans who didn't get it, who ripped the Raiders, right? Who say, "Oh my God, the stadium's all red." There was a lot of blue in Arrowhead yesterday.
There's a ton of blue. It was probably 40% blue in the lower level there. So a lot of Chiefs season ticket holders didn't want to go see the banner drop. They wanted to make their money, which is their right, opening week. But, taking it to the game, I thought, the Chiefs had a couple of chances there in the second half to get some distance, and they settled for 2 field goals. And Andy Reid really kind of surprised me. I think he kicked a field goal on like 4th and 1. It was under a 40-yarder, and then he came down the next possession. It was like 4th and 2. Same situation, like 40-yarder, kicked it again. So from 14 to 14 to 17 to 14 to 20 to 14, they were still within striking distance. And then say what you want about Dan Campbell, that the Lions escaped with the win. He still botched it down the stretch there with some of their play calling and situational awareness things. But unfortunately, the Chiefs, when they got the ball back at the 45 with 2 minutes left, couldn't get in position to kick the game-winning field goal. So credit to the Lions overcoming Dan Campbell's sideline adventures again late in the game.
I think also too is like I'm not sure what they were doing with that 4th and 1, whether with the end around what the Chiefs were doing in that game. I think Tony should delete his Twitter account or at least suspend it right now because he's not going to get any until he gets some big catches under his belt. I would not come back on social media right now. He and Sky Moore were basically the culprits in this game because you look at the Chiefs defense, they really gave up 14 points, right? Because they got a pick 6 on a ball that went off of receiver's hands and into
Tony's hands.
Right, Tony's hands. So it was a tough day to be a Chief receiver. They really missed Travis Kelce, that guy who just breaks down those zones and makes those short-handed catches on 3rd down. But the Raiders have an opportunity here to be, dare I say it, even if it's only for one weekend, in first place if they beat the Broncos.
Yeah, it's good to stay within striking distance early in the season. You don't want to dig yourself a hole. The Raiders have a tough opening 4 to 5 weeks here on their schedule. When you look at who they have lined up coming up after Denver with obviously Buffalo, and then you play the Steelers, who look to be pretty good this year. And then you come back with a road game against the Chargers. Then you got to play, I believe the Patriots are coming up real quick after that. So, and I believe the Packers are in there too. We don't know what we're going to get out of the Packers of Jordan Love. So anytime a divisional team loses, it's good news for everyone else in the division. So we have to, as Raiders fans, we have to take the Chiefs L's when they happen because over the last 5, 6, 7 years, they haven't happened very often.
Let's just roll right over with that game going over quickly. With that game being done, let's just jump over here to to the divisions throughout the National Football League, and let's see who we'd like to win these divisions real quick before we preview the Raiders. Let's start with the AFC East. Who do you like to win the AFC East?
I still like Buffalo. I still think they're the team to chase. They still have the best quarterback in the division right now. I know Aaron Rodgers is with a Jet, but he's also in his late 30s, early 40s. So I would still stick with the best combination there right now, which would be Diggs from Allen. And then they still have that home field advantage there in Buffalo. And they still have a pretty sturdy defense. So there are some holes. I think the division is going to be tighter than a lot of people think, but I still think Buffalo is going to find a way to win that division.
I'm going to roll with Buffalo as well. I think the Jets are the fashionable pick. They're great on Hard Knocks, all those things like that. But I will say, their offensive line on the right tackle, left tackle, they got some issues there. So we'll see. We'll see. The weapons are there. The defense is there. We'll see if they can take advantage of it. I do think the Pats are going to be in last place. I really do. I know they have a defense. I know they have Belichick, but I just thought they're going to be in last place. I think they're probably one of the least talented offensive teams in this division. I'm going to go with the AFC North. I'm going to ride with the Bengals. I think I'm going to go with Burrow. I'm going to go with this offense. And I think and they have pass rushers as well. So I'm going to go with the Bengals there in first place, and then the Ravens in a tight race with the Ravens to win the division.
Yeah, I like the Bengals as well. Obviously Joe Burrow and the calf injury, we don't know the extent of that. It looks like he is going to play week 1, but calf injuries can crop up at any time. We don't know if he's going to stay healthy for 17 weeks. But they have the offensive firepower all over the special as far as the weapons with wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. They have a defense that's been making plays. Now, obviously, they lost Jesse Bates and Von Bell out of that back end, so we'll see how they replace those players. If the Steelers had a quarterback I liked more, believed in more than Kenny Pickett, I might lean the Steelers here, just with Mike Tomlin and just with that defense. That defense is getting TJ Watt back, and they have a ton of playmakers. I'm still just the Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow stays healthy for 17 games, they're going to win the division.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. Let's see here real quick. Let's go to the South. Jacksonville got to be the heads on favorites to win this division.
Yeah, I think it comes down to Jacksonville and Tennessee. Obviously, there's not a lot of expectations in Indianapolis or Houston. Tennessee's kind of got the better coach as far as Mike Vrabel, and he's been able to coach him up. They have Derrick Henry. I just don't believe in the quarterback or the defense over there enough. So I think Jacksonville's got enough youth, enough firepower, and Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and the weapons they have outside are going to be enough to win that division. I don't see a team running away, winning 12, 13 games in that division, but I think Jackson will find a way to win it.
And then I'm gonna, despite the loss, I think KC has to be the favorite here. So for me, I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna go Chargers. I'm actually gonna go Chargers here. If I look bad, I look bad, but I'll go with the Chargers here to win the division in the West.
I was gonna say, did you steal my notes? Because I'm a big believer in the Chargers this year. I'm still gonna stay with Kansas City. They still have the home field advantage. They still have Patrick Mahomes. They're gonna get Kelsey back. They're gonna get Chris Jones back at some point. But I do see the Chargers as a dark horse Super Bowl team here. I think the odds are 25-1. That's the best offensive line they've had there. They've added a first-round wide receiver with ball skills to the group. They still have Eckler. Herbert's ascending. The defense is healthy. If that defense can stay healthy, if they can figure out how to get James, Bosa, and Mack on the field for 15 to 17 games, and J.C. Jackson, it's a pretty good unit. And we don't know what's going to happen with the special teams of the Chargers. It always seems to bite them at some point during the season. But it's good. The AFC West is going to be a tough division. I could see Kansas City winning 12 or 13, or I could see 3 teams bundled up between 9 and 11 wins, and whoever wins the head-to-head matchups between the Raiders, the Chiefs, and the Chargers might come out on top in this division.
They still have Dicker the kicker, so we'll see how that goes for the Chargers. I do like what the Cowboys did. I'm gonna still ride with the Eagles here. Tough division. The Giants are gonna be pesky as well, and we'll see what happens with the Commanders. But I do like the Eagles to win this division, and then I'll jump over to pick the Vikings the next division. So I'll let you go on both of those.
Yeah, same. I'm looking at the Eagles. They went to the Super Bowl last year. They're young. They have a great defense. They have the best offensive line in football, and they have a young ascending quarterback who right now is probably in the top 5 to 7 quarterbacks in the league. So it's tough not to go with the Eagles. And then I still believe in the Vikings. I know the Lions went in and won yesterday. I still think offensively, we didn't see a lot yesterday from the Lions. Obviously, they were missing some players due to injury, but I still think it's the Vikings division to win. I still like the offensive firepower they have there with Jefferson, and then clearly Kirk Cousins is a good enough quarterback. TJ Hawkinson is over there now. They just signed him. The offensive line, pretty good pair of tackles over there. They just have to play defense. But I don't see much coming out of the Packers or the Bears, so it's going to be a 2-team race.
The overwhelming thought process probably out west is that the Niners win the division. I think Seattle is closer. I just don't think they're close enough. I think I think the Niners will find a way to win the division out west. And then I think that I'm going to go ahead and ride with the Falcons to win the South. And I will just say this caveat: obviously, this is the most "quote unquote" complete team that Derek Carr has had. So this is probably his best opportunity to win a division in this year's South. But it's probably the worst division in football.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with the Saints. I just think the defense is good enough. Alvin Kamara is going to come back. Chris Olave, loved him last in the draft. If Michael Thomas gives him anything, that's a bonus. They still have some good pieces on the offensive line. So give me the Saints in a brutal division. There's not a good team in that division other than the Saints. The Saints only need to win probably 9 or 10 games to win that division. And then out west, until someone knocks off the 49ers, that defense is real. The weapons are real. The quarterback just has to not turn the ball over and stay upright there. So we'll see. If anything happens to Brock Purdy and that elbow and they have to turn to Sam Darnold, I think you're probably leaning toward the Seahawks, as you mentioned. But for now, we'll take the 49ers.
Yeah, and life goes with the Niners. The quarterback usually gets hurt. Let's roll with let's start off with the Chandler Jones handling of the situation here. Chandler Jones acquired last year, a lot of money to be a pass rusher for the Raiders. It seems like every time the Raiders feel like they have a Robin to Max Crosby's Batman, something goes wrong. Heart goes out to anybody dealing with mental health. He obviously has something going on that the Raiders and him and everything has to be handled. Hopefully that gets straightened out, and forget about football he gets straightened out. But what do the Raiders do here? And I think the question I have for you first, Ryan, is like if they kind of had a feeling that this was going on, why not kind of try to bulk up the situation here as far as the Raiders being, I don't know, like being more assertive here as far as getting more help from Max Crosby.
Oh, can you hear me?
I got you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, this situation, every day that goes by, it seems like there's more to it that we don't know. We don't know a lot, but clearly something was going on in the middle of August. This didn't just all start on Tuesday night when those Instagram messages started showing up. So there was an incident. We don't know what it was. Something happened early to mid-August. We know the text messages have come out. So something happened prior to August 18th on Chandler Jones's end that kind of set a rift between him and the front office. And it seemed like Chandler Jones thought, and he missed some time for unspecified injury or something. They never came out and said he was hurt. He missed a lot of practice time around that time of the season. So it looks like Chandler Jones was in the understanding that everything would be cool. He'd be back in this week. He would get to work out. He shows up on Tuesday, can't get into the building, and obviously the rest is blown up from there. But if the Raiders knew something was going on, they didn't handle the roster properly. They're going into week 1 with 3 edge rushers, and they had Jordan Willis, who they could have kept. I know they've talked about being able to bring guys up from the practice squad. They don't have another outside linebacker edge on the practice squad. They have Isaac Rochelle, who's like a 5 technique. You can't line him up at outside linebacker and expect him to hold up. So that it's kind of interesting that all this came to a head and Josh Daniels isn't saying anything. And if it is a mental health issue, then he shouldn't say anything. But at the same time, the way they handled the roster would lead you to believe they thought he'd be back and playing this week. So maybe there was a second incident that happened. We don't really know what's going on, but the Raiders are going to have to nip this in the bud quick. So they either need to put him on an exempt list. He needs to be out, 4 weeks till he figures it out. They can't play this practice by practice, because if they keep doing this, they're going to get asked every practice What's
Yeah.
Chandler Jones? What's up with Chandler Jones? So they need to either put him on an exempt list. He's out 4 weeks. We need to figure it out. They need to move on from him. It's surprising that we haven't heard anything from Chandler Jones's agent, which leads me to believe there's something going on Chandler Jones's end, that he might be the big issue here. It's not the Raiders front office. So usually if Chandler Jones was fine and there's nothing going on and he just has a riff with the front office, then the agent would get involved and be like, hey, they're doing this to my player. They start taking game checks away from Chandler Jones by putting him on one of these non-football exempt lists. This could get real hairy real quick. So they need to do something. They can't just sit there and say, we're going to do this day to day. So obviously it's a distraction going into week 1, and we'll see if they miss him on the field, and how those guys hold up. They get an injury or two, that defense is going to look pretty bad trying to stop the run on Sunday if you have to line up Malcolm Koonce for 50 plays.
And I've said it for years now, and we've been blessed with Max Crosby not missing a lot of football. If it ever happens, that's going to be a really bad defensive line, real quick. As far as that goes, and Sean Payton is no dummy. Why wouldn't you just say? Why would you give that Max Crosby, whoever is blocking Max Crosby, as much help as possible until somebody shows that they can win on the other side? Let's break down the Broncos real quick. The Broncos, new Sean Payton, everything like that. I think it's interesting that I listened to Seth Wickersham, and he talked about how one of the reasons why, and you know how one of the things the NFL is doing right now is like playing on the whole, it's rigged, it's a storyline, it's a movie. That's their like promo for this year. He left. One of the reasons he said he left New Orleans is because he wanted to go to a team that the NFL was more invested in being good. Like, ever since that pass interference call or non-call in the NFC Championship game against the Rams, he was like, "Hey, let me just go to a team that I know they want the Broncos to be good. I know they want the Walmart. I mean, are they Walmart over there in Denver? Yeah, they want the Walmart family over there to be good. He wanted to go to a team that like they quote unquote invested in to be good. I thought that was an interesting response to that. But where do you think the Broncos are as far as their development and like as far as just being a team that can contend? They have a good defense. They do have some pieces there, but what are your thoughts about the Broncos going into 2023?
My personal thoughts is I think the media is driving a lot of misled hype towards the Broncos. Sean Payton, let's remember, he had Drew Brees with a ton of firepower in New Orleans down the stretch to his coach career. And there was a lot of 7-9 seasons in there. So he wasn't getting the job done in New Orleans with a better roster than he has right now, I believe, in Denver. And then you look at the quarterback, Russell Wilson wasn't good last year. Russell Wilson wants to hold the ball and run around and make plays. Well, he could do that when he was in his mid to late 20s. Wasn't able to do that last year. They don't have the offensive line that's going to allow him to run around, make plays, and just wing the ball down the field to Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. They're going to have to run the football. They're going to have to establish the offensive line and not put them in pass protection that often. So they're going to have to turn around and hand the ball to Javonte Williams, who's a good young running back, but he's coming off a knee injury. So what kind of workload do they want to give him early? They have injuries at wide receiver. They lost Tim Patrick. Jerry Jeudy's got a hamstring issue. And then you go to the defensive side of the ball. Vic Fangio is not there anymore. They're not running that system that they ran for years. So now you have a new system coming in with Vance Joseph, and you start looking at the defense. I think they're a couple players short here. Like they have Randy Gregory, who we don't know if he's going to stay healthy. He's missed a lot of time. And the guy on the other side of him now is Jonathan Cooper. They brought over Zach Allen, obviously, to play defensive end from the Cardinals. They got some run stuffers inside. I don't like the linebacker core. I'm not big on Josie Jewell or Alex Singleton. And they have, Surtain in the secondary and Simmons. So there's a lot more holes in this defense than they've had in the last few years. So, expecting them to be a top 5 defense, learning a new system, taking away Von Miller, taking away Bradley Chubb, taking away some depth at linebacker, and then obviously opposite Surtain, they're playing some younger corners. I don't think they're going to be a top 5 defense, especially not playing in the AFC West, having to play 6 games against the offenses they're going to have to face. So I'm a little more down on the Broncos. I think the Broncos are battling for 3rd or 4th place. I don't see a scenario where they can finish 1st or 2nd in this division. And I think this game is prime for the Raiders to walk in and walk out with a W on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not big on the Broncos are interesting. I know people are throwing out all this. Mike McGlinchey is the is the Max Crosby stopper type stuff, and he can block it. I mean, like if Mike McGlinchey was doing his job, he would still be in San Francisco. He is definitely a susceptible right tackle. He's going to get help. They're not going to leave him on an island with. I know Sean Payton's cocky, but he's not that cocky. Where you would let Max Crosby ruin this game for you when the Raiders are struggling to kind of find another piece to the puzzle on the other side. There's pieces I like here on this team, but I do think what the Raiders, what the Broncos want to do is get you into obviously third and longs and let that pass rush go after you and stuff like that, and then they can use that secondary to maybe get a turnover. But I got to see them stop the Raiders running game and stop Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has eaten against this defense for a while now, and that's been the key to their victories over I think it's 6 straight now for the Raiders against the Broncos here going into this year. So I've said this before in this game. I kind of think this game is going to be one-sided. I think it's going to be either the Broncos going away or the Raiders going away. So we'll have to hang on for our picks a little bit later on. But that's kind of the rundown on the Broncos. I did listen to Benjamin Albright, who was a very good source for the Broncos. He said that the whole thing about the whole comment that Sean Payton made about what's not certain, but the whole comment he made about the quarterback saying, "Hey, don't worry about Russell Inc." All those things like that. He said that he basically was doing whatever the Broncos wanted him to do PR wise, so it wasn't that big of a deal. He's just trying to make something more out of it than it really was. He said that Russell has looked good in camp. The receivers have been off kilter in this offense when he's watched practice, because he said that a lot of times the ball will be thrown looks like it's off target, but it's actually when Seth Wickersham talked to Sean Payton, he said it was really on these plays I'm showing you, it's the receivers not being connected to the quarterback. They're not in the right spot. The ball's in the right spot, but the receivers are in the right spot. So that could spell something good for the Raiders secondary as well too, because I know the Raiders have a lot of new pieces there as well. So let's go to the Raiders here. Obviously the game plan, we know what they want to do as far as this game goes. He has his quarterback. He has a quarterback Josh McDaniels, who completely knows how to run this offense. There is no disconnect between Jimmy G and Josh McDaniels. I got thoughts about it. What are your thoughts about what's going on with this offense? Because it seems like this would be the strength of this Raider team is probably going to be this offense.
It has to be the offense because the defense isn't going to be a strength. They have to run the football every week. The offensive line is going to have to show up. They're going to have to create holes for Josh Jacobs. They're going to have to limit the turnovers and hope that Jimmy G on converts third downs, gets the ball to the open receivers, and doesn't turn the ball over. Jimmy G's not going to show up and start flinging the ball around the yard for 300 to 400 yards every week. That's not going to happen. He's going to manage the game. His stat line's probably going to be somewhere in the 20 for 25 for 220, 230. Maybe there's a week he approaches 300 where if the Raiders get in a shootout, but they're going to try to ball control, run the ball, play action, push it down the field in the right scenarios. But you're going to see a lot of the ball just getting it out of Jimmy's hands, getting the ball into the hands of the playmakers, getting in Devontae's hands, getting into Renfro's hands, getting to Mayer and Myers. So I think they match up very well against this Denver defense if they want to run the football. And then the linebackers are going to have to come down on the play action, and that's when you take your shots behind them to the tight end or on some of those dig routes or in-breaking routes. So I expect this game, like you said, to be pretty one-sided. You can probably tell which way I'm leaning on this one. I'm just not a big believer in the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, I think both teams go into this game thinking that, oh my God, this is very winnable. But the Raiders, I mean, this is the Raiders. They should be. This is year 2. They really should be in a better spot than the Broncos. At least the shining group of all the groups in this game should be the Raider offense. The Raider offense should really move pretty crisply in this ball game. I think when you talk about the quarterback, talk about the running back, and all the different pieces that are there. They've been there in this offense, and they should know what to do as far as that goes. On the defensive side, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Tillery, Nichols. I'm not in love with any of those inside rushers that they have. They brought in Adam Butler to kind of try to get some experience there with him and John Jenkins. But so Vera and Young are going to be big parts of this because I mean the Raiders kind of need with Chandler Jones gone. It would it would ease his absence would be very eased for this team if Tyree, Young, or Silvera, two out of those three guys ended up becoming pretty good pass rushers and help in the run game.
I think first and foremost, they need to stop the run. Because if I'm Sean Payton, the first thing I'm doing is I'm running out of 11 personnel. I want the Raiders to be in nickel. I want to look across the line and see Malcolm Kuntz and Jerry Tillery as two of your down linemen, and I'm just going to run at them all day until they can stop it. So who knows if that's what their plan is going to be. If they want to line up in heavier personnel where the Raiders can get some of their bigger bodies on the field, put Tyree Wilson in next to Severia or Butler or, one of the big guys, Jenkins inside, then that plays in the Raiders' hands. So if I'm Sean Payton, I'm in 11 personnel and I'm running the football at those two guys because I would expect to see Tillery and Kuntz in when they go to nickel. On the other side with the Raiders defense, the interior of the defensive line is a huge question mark. We think there's upgrades. We think they're going to be able to stop the run. We think they're going to be able to give a little bit of pass rush, but there's a chance they're not going to answer any of those questions. And then now it comes down to how much can Max Crosby do as Superman by himself? And will either one of those linebackers and Diablo and Spillane have a big year? Because they need those guys to play well. There's not a lot of depth behind them. There's young players back there, and those two guys need to carry the middle of this defense. This can't be a repeat of what we've seen for years past where the middle of the field is wide open at all times. The defense is going to come down to what happens on the defensive interior and what happens at linebacker. I'm not worried about the pass rush on the outside. I'm not really worried about the corners. I think the safeties will be fine. It's the defensive tackles and the linebackers that scare me here.
And when you defend Sean Payton, it's the screens and the seams, right? He loves attacking those areas. So that's what I mean. It just makes sense. If I'm like you said, if I'm calling plays, run the football, and then also, I mean, Dolchik might be a guy who could have a big day against the Raiders linebacking core. As far as that goes,
I would add too. I don't know what kind of fit. If you think about the way Drew Brees played the game versus how Russell Wilson in Seattle played in that offense, I don't know if it's a great fit. Like Russell in Seattle, they handed the ball off, they ran the football, they established the line of line of scrimmage, and it was play action and throw it deep, or it was scramble around and throw it deep. Sean Payton doesn't call an offense that way. Neither does Joe Lombardi, who was with the Chargers. It's literally 3-step drop, 5-step drop, get it out, a bunch of timing stuff. How good is Russell Wilson at that? We have no idea. I would assume he tried to do some of that last year under Hackett, who ran kind of a West Coast offense with Green Bay and brought that over, and we saw what happened with Russell Wilson. So I'm not sure this is a great marriage as far as system and Russell Wilson, especially at his age, together. Hopefully there's some missed throws. Hopefully the Raiders defensive backs can get their hands on some balls, and I'd love to see a pick six go the other way like we saw last night.
Yeah, I would say too, one of the things that they were Warren Sharp and some other people showed that they were the slowest to the line of scrimmage. They always were up against the play clock. One thing that Sean Payton wants to do immediately is get them to the line immediately and be and play a lot faster than they did last year. So we'll see if that is something that is if that's something that can really help the Broncos here. The consensus, I went around to a bunch of different spots, Ryan, to see where like the national media was going to pick this game. And the consensus score I came up with was Broncos 27, Raiders 17. So that's been like the people have been picking the Broncos to win this game. Maybe just the Sean Payton effect, everything like that. If you were picking this game, and we're going to pick it right now, what would you say the score would be for the Raiders and Broncos here for game one, year two of Josh McDaniel?
Yeah, I think the Raiders are catching the Broncos at a good time. Like you said, it's a new system. It's a new offense, new defense. There's some injuries. Guys are banged up. I think the Raiders are going to win this game. I know the line's 3.5. I would lay that. I would even go money line on this game. I wouldn't even mess around with the 3.5. I think the Raiders are going to win this game. Probably 27-16, something like that. 17 that you were kind of hitting to. I'd flip what the national media says. You look around the field, stars win games. The best wide receiver on the field is Davante Adams. The best running back on the field is Josh Jacobs. The best offensive line belongs to the Raiders. The best pass rusher is Max Crosby. The best special teams unit is the Raiders. The best kicker, the best punter is the Raiders. The only advantage Denver really has is in the secondary with Surtain and Simmons. I guess you could say Russell Wilson. We don't know. I mean, him and Jimmy are kind of a push at this point until Russell Wilson does it again. We can't live on the Russell Wilson from 3 or 4 years ago. So, if big players make big plays in big games, the Raiders have all of them in this game.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely not a homer show. We're definitely not going to pick the Raiders every week. But in this game, as soon as the schedule came out, I was like, oh, they have a tremendous opportunity to win their first game of the year before they go to Buffalo. And then you would like to just go to Buffalo off of a 27, like you said, 27-16 win, and go to Buffalo with house money. Maybe the prior week, Josh Allen got hurt or whatever. Like you never know in National Football League. So I think that's what I would. When you want to go to that Buffalo game with house money, probably be a 10 a.m. Kickoff because they love the West Coast out there.
It is a 10 a.m. game.
I'm sure. I knew it was. But I've been looking. They love that stuff out there. I'm thinking I'm thinking 24-20. I think it'll be a little bit closer, but I do think I think maybe the Raiders kind of are ahead, and then like a late touchdown to make it close. And we got to sweat out an offside kick. The Raiders never really make it easy. One of the few laughers they had last year was the game against the Broncos, and I think the streak continues. It doesn't mean that the Broncos are going to sweep the Raiders this year. They could go to Vegas and win that game. Maybe the Broncos will be better later on in the season than they are right now. But something tells me, especially with this little drama with Chandler Jones and stuff like that, I just kind of feel like the Raiders are going to come in here and win this game. I think he should be able to get this offense going. Like I want to see. I don't care about anything else. Like the one thing that Josh McDaniels has to do is make this a top 8, top 5 offensive unit in the National Football League. They have to. If Jimmy's going to play and Jimmy's going to be on the field, everybody on this team has to be. Everybody in this offense, just has to be clicking, and they have to score. They got to score points, especially when you have these especially with this kicking game, and they got everything in their arsenal, Ryan, to be one of the top offenses in football.
Yeah, I don't think Patrick Surtain did his fellow corners any favors when he was asked about Davante Adams, and he responded, "Who?" Like, the guy that roasted you last week and walked it off on a touchdown when he left you in the spin cycle. I wouldn't want to motivate Davante Adams like that before a game. And then they had someone else from Denver. I saw it this morning. I don't remember who. Someone was making fun of Mark Davis's haircut and how they hate the bowl cut and what a joke it was. So they're giving the Raiders plenty of ammunition here. Not that they need it. I just think that they're going to be the more focused, button-up team walking to the stadium. I believe in the conditioning of the team based on what I saw at training camp and how much running they did. And I just think Max Crosby's on a whole nother mission to prove that this defense isn't terrible because it's on him now. He's the leader of this team and this defense. Yeah. And Josh Jacobs is on a mission to get that bag. He's not going to walk in there and just play it cool. He's going to want to run for 200 yards. And Davante Adams is going to have something to say to Patrick Surtain. And then you look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy still has stuff to prove. He has to prove that he can be the guy. And if he wants to continue his career as a starter in this league, he's got about a 2-year window here with the Raiders to do it. If Jimmy doesn't do it, he's a backup for the rest of his life. So he has to go out there and prove that what happened in San Francisco wasn't just because of the defense. So, and then you look at the coaching staff. Josh McDaniels has to prove it. There's a lot of fire on him right now with the whole Chandler Jones situation. So they're going to have to overcome that. And, I just think like Sean Payton over there is kind of like, hey, I'm getting another gig. This is cool. I'm going to mouth off about Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers, and I'm going to just say random stuff because I was on TV. And I'm not sure how tight the ship is over there in Denver right now. And like you said, they might be better week 8 than they are week 1. So I'm glad the Raiders are getting them week 1. And we don't know about Javonte Williams and how his knee is going to hold up over the course of 4 quarters. And Jerry Jeudy most likely won't play either.
Yeah, if your starting running back is Saman J.P. Ryan, that's not going to be. Not he's a good backup, but he's not an NFL starter. As far as as far as that goes. So we both have the Raiders winning this game. I think this is like, if they have any result, any thoughts of playoff or a playoff push in the AFC, which is loaded, they gotta get through these first 4 games at 2-2, and then take it from there. I mean, they started off their first 3 out of the first 4 on the road, even if you want to count SoFi, but they haven't won in SoFi, so I can't keep saying we run LA and we can't win a game in LA, so I can't keep saying that.
Yeah, I will add that I was concerned with a comment Josh McDaniels made today at his press conference when he said, we're going to treat this as an extension of training camp and we're going to learn a lot about who we are. Josh, I got news for you. You're not playing in the NFC East. You don't have Tom Brady and a dominant defense to where you can lose a game here or there. You get 17 opportunities to prove yourself. This is a division game. You are the better team. Win the damn game.
So this is where that made me want to change my pick. But
yeah, that's what he said.
This whole thing where like the Pats used to get off. I mean, I remember when I think they got rid of Lawyer Malloy or Ty Law. They were on the Bills, and the Bills destroyed them in week 1. Everybody said, "Oh, the Patriots are done. Patriots are done." Patriots have been known to be that team who gets off to a slow start, but then kind of like what Tom Landry used to do with the Cowboys. As soon as Thanksgiving comes, that's when they start reeling off all these wins and kind of solidify themselves for a playoff push. That's fine, but this is not an extension of anything. These games count in the standings. You are 16-25 as a head coach. You don't have the leeway. Is not it's real thin. This margins is real thin, and you can't be sitting there playing this. Hey, we're going to get better down the stretch. Like, what do we do? I mean, the Raiders are one of the oldest teams in football. Like, if they were a bunch of babies out here, I would say something different. But you can't make that comment. Like, I'm so over that. Like, that's a Belichickian comment. You gotta start winning games, dude. Like, you have to start winning games. Come on.
You can say that when you have the GOAT quarterback, you have a good defense, and you play in a terrible division. The Raiders have none of that. Like you said, 17 games count. You get 6 division games. You need to win 4 of them. This game means more, honestly, than other weeks.
It's like 2 games.
And you're walking into Denver where they fired you after a year and a half because you weren't any good at your job. So hopefully that was just media talk and they go out there and they're fired up. I think this team will be. I think they win this game, but you can't start 0-4 and say, okay, we just got through the extension of training camp. Let's play. Let's tee it up. Like, your season's over at that point. So you need to win these games.
It's
an extension of training camp.
Training camp. Oh my God, please.
So I don't want to see rotating guys going in and out. I don't want to see 3 different offensive line combinations. I don't want to see Mumford and Illuminor switching, or Illuminor going inside for one series and then popping back out to tackle. Line up your best guys. Just win, baby, as Al Davis would say.
So do you think they will use the Juwan Jennings? I mean, the Juwan Jones with Mumford there on the outside, just kind of have him almost like a slot receiver lined up, and then without 7 men on line of scrimmage. Like, it was pretty. I couldn't believe that didn't get called, at least called until the fourth quarter last night. That's pretty bad as far as that goes.
Technically, in the fourth quarter, that was a penalty. He left way earlier on that one than he had the rest of the game.
His kick was like, I'm like, dude, it's like a full second and a half before the ball was snapped. It was ridiculous.
And I will add this whole narrative you're hearing. Well, it's in the rule book that their back right foot, they're allowed to adjust it. That's a loophole. That's a damn false start. Throw the flag. Get that out of the game. You can't let some teams do it and some teams not do it. It's either a false start or it's not. Let everyone do it or not. And to find some loophole about being able to move your back foot and then turning that into a way to get a huge advantage and then being able to line up 2 yards in the backfield, they got to clean that up. The Raiders do get Bill Vinovich's crew this week, who called the least amount of penalties in the entire league last year. So hopefully it's a clean game, not a lot of flags, but don't let the blatant stuff go. Don't let them triple team Max Crosby and hug him and hold him and do all of that. So when there's penalties, throw the flag. But I thought overall yesterday in that Kansas City game, there was some iffy calls, but for the most part, they let the guys play. Let's hopefully we see that in week 1 across the league, not just in the Raiders game, because there's nothing worse than 20 flags in a game, slowing it down, and just start nitpicking penalties left and right.
Do you have 3 NFL games you like this week?
I like the Chargers Dolphins game. I just think from a viewership standpoint, I think that it has a big. I want to see where both those teams are because they both should be in playoff contention. Obviously, Jets Bills on Monday night is another huge game to look at, and then those are the two that probably pop out right away in my head. I just want to see what happens. If I'm watching games that aren't the Raiders and Broncos, I'm probably looking at those two games. I do have a bold prediction. Daniel Carlson breaks the NFL field goal record on Sunday, making, I don't know, let's go 65, 66 yard, or what's the record? 66, Justin Tucker?
66.
Something like that. He comes close, if not breaks it. I see a 60-plus yarder coming from Mr. Carlson right before the half on Sunday.
The dude is a beast, man. One of the few gifts of the John Gruden era was the Raiders signing Daniel Carlson and bringing him over to the silver and black. All right, Ray Nation. We got our division picks in there. We got all the stuff from the breakdown of this game. We kind of feel strongly together that the Raiders are going to beat the Broncos. And like I said, Ryan talked about, like, winning 4 games in your division is really important. So if they can do that, maybe they can do something here. Because they have to start winning games. I mean, this extension of training camp stuff, I'm not sure how that kind of goes into the conversations he has with Mark Davis. I'm not sure how I would be able to talk to my boss that way if that was that. Cool.
I would add this.
Go ahead.
I'm pretty good at math. To win 4 in your division, you have to sweep someone. So. Yes. This would be a good way to start it. You can't split and then win 4 in your division. So
you can't split with everybody. So you got to do that. All right, Raider Nation. We'll see you next week. Hopefully, the Raiders get his victory and we can have something to talk about on Sunday. All right.
Take care.